Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures Season 2, Episode 14, The Helpful Harvester / Little Lost Droid. The episode is rated TV 7, I think, so this video B. There will be spoilers for the show leading up to and including this episode, and possibly basically anything Star Wars that came out before this episode first premiered. And yeah, another quite good episode. So I quite liked, so yeah, Raxlo still, gradually going through redemption, and yeah, it's so I've said before, I am largely happy with how Disney have handled Star Wars. I don't think it's some huge downgrade for the most part, but it is extremely Disney Star Wars to have, like, talking about, money isn't everything, while, let's say, I think it's right after we've seen something that is like, there's that shot of the harvester and it's like, kids want to buy this as a toy, yeah. I'm not saying George Lucas is perfect, but it felt more genuine in his Star Wars when it went very far left. And but I do appreciate it. I agree. We should definitely not obsess over money. And let's see, we have the so poor Nubs, he's like, that tree's gonna fall, and they're like, that tree's not gonna fall. Then the tree falls and people are around to hear it, and then they're like, that tree was gonna fall. And the let's see, so we have the thing about, well, the other younglings have to get Nubs out of there because, Wes and I'm afraid I forget her name, but they're off world, or possibly just busy, but the reference joke. But the let's see, we have the but yeah, so they talk to Raxlo, and first Raxlo refuses, and even the baby seal alien is like doing puppy eyes at Raxlo to get Raxlo to actually help. And let's see, the turns out the drill can't go through the tree, but it can go under it. And the there's another, Liz meets yet another adorable little marketing opportunity. I mean, alien. The I guess beaver-ish kind of, mole, part mole, I guess, since it's digging underground. But yeah. And I mean, I'm not made of stone. They are cute. And let's see, the yeah, I thought it worked. The fact that I think it's Liz who says, I worried Raxlo would only care about money. Raxlo, like, you can tell it's bugging Raxlo a little bit, but then it's like, well, why shouldn't I? And there's the thing about, well, we can't. The drill would break. How I would not be able to make money, and I can't think of anything worse than that. And Liz is like, Trump, I mean, tech billionaire, I mean, Raxlo, you have to understand. And yeah, because of Raxlo's greed, the harvester ends up buried down there. And the I think that does bring us to, and Nubs thinking Raxlo's like running up to hug, but which I guess technically Raxlo was, but not Nubs. And yeah, the thing about they can't use the harvester because it's broken. And the when there's the thing about, well, we need to make a raft, and it's like, well, thanks for helping us. Well, I'm mostly doing it for me. I need your help to escape from here. But when Nubs is in trouble, Raxlow does, Raxlow even says, I really don't like water, which, I mean, fair enough. A lot of birds don't. And, yeah, that is genuinely, I did appreciate that by the end of the episode, Raxlow is, putting themselves in potential danger to save others. And I think that does, yeah. And then we have there at the end that said, well, they'll build a new harvester for Raxlow, to repay Raxlow for helping save them. And yeah, that covers the entire first. So moving on to the second half, Little Lost Droid. This episode, like, wow, has this aged incredibly well. Yeah, it's this anti-bigotry message is only all the more relevant because they really they nail, let's go over. So the the first time that the Graylin, I hope that's how you pronounce it. My wrists are too sore to check right now. I believe that's how they Graylin. Let's go with that. The first time Graylin sees the Dole stands, Graylin assumes, oh, they're stealing. And later it turns out, no, they were being good, people. They were helping this little thing in need. They don't have any relationship to B3. It's not their droid. They didn't know that it could help find water. They just saw something that needed help, and they provided that. Meanwhile, Graylin is about to call ICE on some, Haitian immigrants because, oh, there's animals. I guess they're probably doing something horrible, right? If you haven't already, look at the fact checking for that whole thing. Yes, the let's see, yeah, and other than that, you have the language barrier, which, once someone is able to communicate with them, once someone who speaks their language communicates with them and explains it to the, Galactic Basic / English speakers, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's not really any problem. At first, Graylin is a little hesitant to accept it, but yeah. And let's see, yeah, and I do think, I mean, the fact that B3 is almost like a child, or I guess maybe an animal, like a rescue animal, perhaps, but very skittish and such. It does not read as an adult, or at the very least, if an adult, then one that, yeah, struggles with, some kind of like it's excessively afraid, like how could you look at Nubs and be afraid, like, I don't know, maybe turquoise is not B3's favorite color. Used to be mine. But the let's see, I think, what was the other thing? Right, you have the the fact that at first Graylin doesn't believe the Dolstens, and they're actually helping. They're like, no, you can't just run into that cave. If Graylin had continued, Graylin might have tripped over one of those, yeah, and they would never have been able to get B3 out of there then. Or at the very, very least, it would have taken a while before they'd be able to get there. I guess they'd have to wait for them to fall asleep again or something. And let's see, yeah, there's the bit where, Graylin runs up to them and they get out these electrified hockey sticks, I guess. And, at first it might look, oh, they're scared, they're dangerous. Well, Graylin's running up to them like they don't know Graylin. They didn't know that B3 was Graylin's droid. How would they possibly have been able to see that through the sandstorm, So as soon as it's explained, yeah, everything is resolved. And there at the end we find out, yeah, they're not, and yeah, Graylin says, oh, they're stealing. And then, the others point out, but you've never actually seen them steal anything. You just assume because, they're different to you. And just like that, Albie wasn't racist anymore. And yeah, there at the end, there's mutual benefit, because Graylin appreciates, hey, if not for the Dolsons, what would have happened to B3? And so and I guess even Graylin would have been stuck in there if the Dolstons hadn't helped deal with the aliens. Gotta say, I've said it before. I am one of the people who love when Star Wars dares get like weird like that, like these massive tentacle things that poke out of walls, which I think I might have had to deal with in at least one of the Penumbra games. And I think that covers. But yeah, the episode ends with we have the happy ending of, well, there's mutual benefit. They can help each other. And Graylin now trusts, and there's even the part where Graylin runs back and says, "Don't hurt my friend." Very nicely done. And yeah, I think that does more or less cover. Yeah, love that. Wes is like, oh, they're speaking Huttese. I happen to be a big enough Star Wars nerd to speak it. I'm quoting Wes here, not myself. And let's see, I think, yeah, it was very nice that though there was action, it wasn't fighting some, like, I will say, at first I thought that the episode would have them fighting the Dolsons, but that happens extremely briefly. But then, yeah. And I did also wonder if at first I thought that maybe that story would be about that Braylon needs to care about other people and not just their own droids, but they were not setting that up. They were setting up that Graylin kind of has a one-track mind when the droids are involved, when their own droids, if they're in any kind of danger, Graylin just rushes right in, which they say only fools do. And yeah, I do really appreciate that. This, the I guess I'll start with so the first part of the episode, the first half. In both halves, the you know the younglings solve things not with lightsabers and the Force, or at least not too much, not as much as in other episodes. And I do also really love the ones where they get to fight, aliens and robots and such. That's part of what I love about Star Wars. But in the first one, it's ingenuity, it's convincing someone who is perhaps unlikely to help you to do so. And yeah, and then the second half, it is communication, empathy, patience, and these are all things that, simultaneously are important, and in the original trilogy equally as important for Jedi to master as the more action, stuff. And it is also something that is extremely important to, what's the word in English? To encourage in future generations, So while once again, I definitely would prefer that Disney meant these things instead of just woke washing their image, I do really appreciate that. Yeah, I guess that does cover it. Yeah, and Raxlow, in that first half of the episode, not quite minding one's own business, and gets, yeah, grabs onto what evidently is a load-bearing mushroom, and, you know, yeah, causes this, yeah, digging too deep underground for something valuable and ends up in some kind of trouble. I think maybe Raxlow needs to read some Tolkien